Hello and welcome back to a new video. I'm going to try and play around with Linux some more on another old laptop. This time it's a laptop with a 64-bit architecture. It's a Hewlett-Packard laptop from 2010, type Pavilion DM4. Still an old one, but 5 years younger than my previous laptops. It has an Intel i5 M460 CPU with 4 GB of RAM. It came installed with Windows 7 Home Premium OA. I still need to replace the battery. The CMOS gives an error when you start it up the next day. Okay, done. The Peppermint OS kept hanging in my brain, so I want to run it on this laptop. I downloaded a Peppermint OS from the website and it is a full version, around 2.5 GB sized ISO file. I put it onto my USB in the Ventoy space. I tried a new installation and it gave this error. Bootloader installation error. I'm still a beginner, so I thought maybe I did something wrong in my partitioning setup. Okay, I thought, let's try a different distro. Let's try Anti-X. This distro wouldn't even let me get into the live environment, so that didn't work either. It did constantly keep running though. Back to Peppermint. I just wanted to work on my laptop, damn it. It can't be that hard. Before doing a new installation, I first dove deep into the theoretics of legacy, BIOS, MS-DOS, EFI, UEFI, MBR, and GPT. Now that I know more about the backgrounds, I've learned that it's better to stick with the MBR partition table for this old laptop. It's easier to config, and since this laptop doesn't have UEFI, it's the best option. I did a new configuration with a boot, a swap, and a root. Don't look at the order. This also caused problems with the installation. I'll show you later. When trying this setup, I got a new message before entering my login credentials. A GPT partition table is the best option. That's weird. The installer knows what kind of system it's dealing with, right? To configure a GPT partition table on BIOS, go back and set the partition table to GPT. Next, create a 8 MB unformatted partition with the BIOS grub flag enabled. An unformatted 8 MB partition is necessary to start Peppermint on a BIOS system with GPT. Okay, so I gave it a go. I first used gparted. Create partition table, GPT, first partition 8 MB boot. I used the wrong file system here. It should be unformatted. I'm still a beginner. I read over that part in the message box. Second partition 8 GB of swap. Third partition 32 GB of root. Fourth partition around 436 GB for home. Apply all operations to end the pending of the operations. This is the setup. Again here I placed the swap in the wrong position. We'll see what happens during the installation. Manage the flag for the 8 MB boot partition. Check the BIOS grub box. Let's try this setup. No, don't! I've started the installation. First gave my time, location, keyboard settings, and here I choose manual partitioning. I still need to add the mounting points or else you can't click on next. Set the boot partition to /boot. You should be able to set this to the partition when it's unformatted. Unfortunately, that's another mistake I made. More mistakes to come. Set the root partition to /. Set the home partition to /home. For bootloader option, I chose boot partition /boot. Again, I get this message. While I thought I did everything right, filled in my login credentials. Here's the final screen before I press install. Okay, what do you think will happen? The bootloader installation failed? I still am not connected to the network. Nope, wrong. A new error pops up pretty short in the installation process. rsync failed with error code 11. It can't unpack the installation files. This was with the flagship installation, so this version was only 1.5 gigabytes in size. It tried to store the installation in dev/loop0 somehow. I don't know where that is, somewhere in the RAM, I don't know. So this error occurred because of the swap partition placed before the root partition.
Okay, now I know. This happened by accident actually. Let's try a new installation, but this time use the partitioning program inside the installer instead of using gparted. That's wiser. I also started using Rufus as my bootable USB drive creator. I sometimes couldn't shut down the Peppermint Live system without having to hold down the laptop reset button when I was using Ventoy. First, the partition table. Again, I followed the advice of Peppermint's GPT message suggestion. This time I use 8 megabytes of unformatted file system. Then root, then swap, and I left 8 megabytes unused. This time I do have actual footage since I was confident that this would work. And after 9 minutes of installation time, it gave the same bootloader installation error. I didn't realize that this meant I had to connect to the network. So the program could first download and then install grub on my system. It took a few times before this thought came through my head. Pfft, if only the message would add the text, you need to connect to the internet to download and install the grub bootloader. I did another attempt and with an extra partition for /home. This time I chose not to install a bootloader. I finally get to see a new section of the installation process. It's creating the user account, configuring other stuff. Then it's almost 4 minutes later of removing 11 packages. Yes, it's all done. But now I don't have a bootloader. I'm not going to stop until I have everything fixed. Retry. I still kept going with the GPT partition table. And every time I still get this message of the GPT on BIOS option. Then I discovered that if I do a plain installation of erase disk option for the Peppermint installation, it also uses MS-DOS aka MBR partition table. The program failed here because I got it confused with an existing partition table setup somehow. Another error message. Ah! Installation failed. Failed to create partition table on /dev/SDA. Okay, this fault is on me. I did another installation with a 32 gigabyte partition for root, 8 gigabyte for swap, and the rest for the home partition. The installation went perfect, but no bootloader, so I can't boot. Then I finally had a bright idea. Let's plug into the internet. I plugged in a network cable. Yes, it installed the grub bootloader. Then this happens during 85%. The installation program tries to update the system. It should be able to connect to the internet and finish the job, right? 10 minutes later, nope. Again, I get an error message. External command failed to finish. Command failed to finish in 600 seconds. There was no output from the command. It could have continued and finished the installation successfully, but it didn't. Now I thought, what if I give the network access for the bootloader installation and then unplug before I want to update the system? And what do you think?
It worked!
I don't know if I was just unlucky that it couldn't update the system somehow. Let's restart the system. Unplug the USB before it reboots. This looks familiar, only now it does it without the USB. Yeah. Oh yeah, and don't forget, I used the MBR partitioning table, just to make that clear. The Peppermint OS loading screen. More text appears, it stays dark pretty long, and BAM! The first time I can log in. Wow, this is perfect! And I'm in, finally! Now I can do a system update. I'll first do that or with the terminal. Let's check my final partition setup. I have a boot, a root, and a swap, but you can't see that since it's unmounted swap. Good night! I'm just wondering, has anyone had these problems like I did? Or do these problems only happen on these old laptops that are more than 14 years old? I learned that for a good installation you need a network connection, but that's a bit weird. You should be able to install Peppermint OS without using the internet, right? Or am I wrong? Anyway, I found a solution. It's a bit strange that you have to unplug the network before it tries to update the system, but it works. I hope you like this video, and I do encourage you to use Peppermint OS, because it runs great when it's installed. Thanks for watching. Bye.